guys. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Thanks, Anthony. I live not far from here. It's good. I don't come to Koreatown much, so it's good to be here. I would think that if the real Korea is anything like Koreatown here in Los Angeles, then great Mexican food over there, I would think. Nothing like kimchi tacos. Saw that border dispute at the 30th parallel. So that's something to think about. I lived in Japan for a couple years, 2 years. I was studying Japanese, and so yoroshiku, sanbyu, hajimashite, konnichiwa, and lived in Korea for 1 year. And when I came back, my father, who had paid for me to be over there studying, we were watching television and watching TV one day, and he's flipping through the channels, and this Chinese network came on, and he said, "What are they saying? What are they saying?" And I said, "Oh, they're speaking Chinese." And he said, "It's always Chinese with you, and I thought, oh, okay, very supportive father. But so it's good. It's good. I was raised Catholic, so something similar to here, and it was always interesting, like being raised Catholic. We used to pray to God before grade school football games, that we'd win, and we were playing other Catholic grade schools who were praying to the same God, right? And I don't think God cares if St. Catherine's beat St. Margaret's, right? And if so, who were the public school kids praying to? Because they were kicking the crap out of us. So they had a different God that liked football more than our God did, I guess. Praying for a first down and whatnot. But it's good. It's good. It's nice to be here on a Sunday doing this. When I lived in Asia, I probably called home more than I do now, which is kind of interesting. I pocket called my mom the other day. That's when your phone dials someone from inside your pocket without you knowing it. And she said, "Did you mean to call me?" And I said, "No, I pocket called you." And she said, "Oh, well, your pocket is a better son than you are. So don't bother coming over to Thanksgiving, but your pocket is more than welcome." I don't know if anybody has. Do you guys have parents? You know what I'm talking about? I grew up in Orange County, down south, Orange County, California, about an hour south. And whenever I tell people that, they always say, "Wow, you must be a real softie, real Nancy boy, But I'm not. I'm a man. And because we have gangs down there, it's a little rough sometimes. We have gangs. Just like if you remember the movie Outsiders, they had gangs. They had socias and greasers. And in Orange County, we have socias and really rich socias. Those are the two categories. Children of doctors and lawyers used to get beat up by children of mid-level management executives. So when you're down there, careful you don't walk on the wrong side of the golf course. Things go down when the lights go out at Disneyland. So it's good. It's nice to do a set. This is how more comedy shows should have flowers and Kleenex. With a performer, I think that would help. So laughter is a healthy thing. Audiences and congregations need to laugh, which sometimes is why outside of my shows there's an ambulance waiting, just because it's the furthest thing from it. One of the funny things about living in Orange County, it's a conservative place. So we have people with sleeve tattoos but have no idea how to hotwire a car, right? It's like, wow, those skulls on your arms with flames coming out, they go great with your real estate license, right? I'll sign. So we have a lot of weekend warriors down there. So it's good to be up here. So I was raised Irish. When I was born, I was Irish, and after my mother gave birth to me, she's like, "Oh, finally, now I can start drinking again." That was the longest 3 months of my life. Feel free to feel the cell phone call comes in, or you need to send a text or receive a text, or a fax. We have a fax machine in the back. You can use that as well. So one of the nice things about being Irish, we can't really be racist because to us, a person of color is everyone. Racism would be too exhausting. Black, Italian, English, Canadian, you're all darker than we are. We're so fair-skinned, but it's good. It's good. The memories from private school make it funny. I substitute taught for a while in Los Angeles, South Central and East LA, which was interesting and fun. Growing up, I always wanted to be a substitute teacher because I like the idea of somebody coming to you with a problem and you're able to say, "Oh, let's just worry about it tomorrow." But you're not going to be here. I know. I can't wait. It's going to be great. So I got kicked out. I was told not to come back after there was a fight in my classroom, and I didn't break it up. And it was an 8th grade girl and a 7th grade boy, and it was the best fight I ever saw. Right? And so the teacher from next door would come running in, and she's like, "What are you doing? You're supposed to stop this." And I was like, "Are you kidding? Look at these kids go. This is some good stuff." And so they told me not to come back, and I said, "All right, well, let me know who wins, because I have money on that." And I really kept in the loop if there's a rematch or something like that. But that was a good experience, doing that. I recently was competing for the love of a beautiful woman with a good-looking guy, and the challenge was I had to be funny for as long as he could be good-looking, which isn't easy to do, right? Because after an hour you're out of jokes, after an hour he has the same face. Because if you're good-looking, you never need to say the right thing, you just need to not say the wrong thing, and you're home free, right? All these good-looking people giving dings. I want to date out of my league. I want my girlfriend to be told that she could do a lot better. I want to be the guy with a beautiful girlfriend who everybody points to at the mall and says, "What? How does that happen? How did he get her? What is she doing with him? He must be a really funny comedian." So growing up in Orange County and then living in LA for the last 12 years, I always wanted to learn Spanish, because there was a time in America where if you spoke English and Spanish, you had it covered, right? You could communicate with most people. And it's not the case anymore with so many nationalities and ethnicities and languages. Now I'd be happy just recognizing Spanish. I probably said buenos dias to every Armenian living in LA, right? These kebabs are muy delicioso. It doesn't really translate into one language. I fly around the country a lot. I doing shows, and I flew this week, and I inevitably was sitting next to a small child who was crying. And so I switched seats. I went to the back, and the flight attendant said, "Sir, you got to go back to your seat." And I said, "No, that baby's crying already. The plane hasn't even taken off yet." And she said, "Yeah, but it's a full flight. Legally, you need to be in your assigned seat." And I said, "Look, I'm going to be a bigger problem than that baby is if you make me sit next to it." And she said, "Well, sir, it is your baby. We really should be a better parent than that." So I don't have details, right? But I love kids. I found out recently I can't have kids, not from my doctor, but from my accountant. He just said it's not a good idea in this economy, the way things are. It's tough times all around. I tried to give money to a homeless guy the other day, and my buddy says, he's just going to spend it on booze. And I said, well, that's all we're going to spend it on. So let's go with him. He's going to know where the best deals are. And the homeless man shook my hand after I gave him money, and then he wiped it off. He wiped my handshake off. And I thought, where have I been that homeless people are wiping my handshake off? So it makes you think twice. I got my hair cut online recently, and it's never like the JPEG guys. It's funny that it's good like congregations like this, and then the internet for dating. I think there's a lot more people dating online, which at first seemed so foreign to people, but now it's so common. Which is nice, because now when people meet online, they go into their first encounter, their first date, knowing more about each other than two alcoholics who've dated for 20 years, so it's like really nice. Because I come from a long line of, Irish Catholic, sometimes alcoholics, and, after 20 years they sober up and say, "Oh, I didn't know you spoke Russian. Yeah, and I used to be a man. Wow, we should have talked, we should have communicated at some point. That would have been nice." Hey, how you doing, buddy? Okay, good response. And so they should have little kids allowed to run around comedy clubs, I think. It's fun traveling and living here in LA and being able to go back to Orange County. I got to go overseas a little bit and do some comedy for the troops, which was nice. And then also up in Canada, and then sometimes right here we are in Koreatown, right? Okay, good. And then just, it's funny on a religious note, like, I asked a girl the other night at a bar, I said, "Hey, do you want to ride home?" And she said, "That'd be great since we drove here together 4 hours ago, that'd be nice." And she started hitting me, something I haven't seen before, but made me think of my neighbors. I have neighbors, I don't know if any of you guys have neighbors, but I have neighbors, and they fight a lot. And there's a lot of crying, screaming, kicking, and the other night it was so bad it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and I thought, I gotta get involved, I gotta do something. So the next day I went to the barber, and I had him cut the hair on the back of my neck. I feel so much better about everything. And it got me thinking, how'd the world get so violent? We were talking earlier about some of the violence in the world and some of the evil, and the world never got violent, right? There is no God. The world has been violent since the beginning. Cain killed Abel. Cain killed Abel, the third person on the planet, killed the fourth person on the planet. We weren't even able to make it to 3 people before somebody was a murderer, right? At one time, a third of the people on the planet were murderers. A third of the people in the hood aren't murderers. A third of the people who own guns aren't murderers. A third of the people in jail aren't even murderers. San Quentin, Folsom Prison, and Alcatraz are safer than the book of Genesis. You thought Compton and Baghdad were tough, try downtown Eden when the sun goes down, right? There was murder and violence at person 3. One couple had 2 boys who had the world to themselves, and one of them was claiming this town isn't big enough for the 2 of us. Right? Keane killed 25% of the world's population. That's more than Stalin, Hitler, Idi Amin, Pol Pot, King Herod, Genghis Khan, the English, Manifest Destiny, typhoid, cancer, AIDS, cooties, all combined. King killed a third of the people he knew. He knew 3 people. He killed one of them. If you knew King, you had a 66 and 2/3% chance of survival. There's no such thing as the good old days. There was no perfect time to be alive, right? There was one good day. It was half a day. Adam and Eve were naked, alone in an oasis. Lunchtime came. People got hungry. Apples were eaten. Boom, Tijuana. You know? So there's no such thing as the good old days. And, it's funny because, I picture it like driving on the 10 freeway. It's called the Christopher Columbus Transcontinental Highway. And I think it's called that because after discovering Hispaniola and modern-day Haiti and the Dominican Republic, he sailed around South America and then landed his 3 ships in Santa Monica and then just took the 10 back to Florida, to the Atlantic, and then sailed back to Spain. He's made multiple trips. And so it's called the Christopher Columbus Continental Highway. And then further inland, it's called about 10 exits in, maybe 15 exits in, it's called the Rosa Parks Freeway, the 10 freeway. And Christopher Columbus was the beginning of racism in this hemisphere, right? And Rosa Parks was the beginning of the end of racism in this hemisphere. And it's all separated by 10 exits, 15 minutes, 20 tops with traffic. We're always that close from, spiritual enlightenment and racial and harmony and everything. So thank you guys very much. It's good to meet you and see you, and I hope your congregation grows and remains strong. And there's a lot of love, peace, and tranquility and everything. So thank you for your time, guys. Have a great Sunday. Thank you.